Hey everybody, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
How's everybody doing?
I'm doing okay now. That took us like 20 minutes to get started.
It's okay, man. Well, new year, new goals, new network.
I know.
Reset your password so your neighbors aren't using it this time.
Yeah, New Year's resolution, be meaner to my neighbors. Don't give them my internet password.
You know what my New Year's resolution is?
What?
Something I've always wanted to be able to do. I want to learn how to juggle.
Seriously?
Okay.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, all my life I've wanted to learn how to juggle. I just never had the balls to do it.
Oh,
Wow. For a
I
second
just
there,
dropped
I thought you were being like vulnerable and intimate with us. And
Yeah.
no, okay.
No, that was me sneaking the dad joke in.
Oh.
Boom.
This is what happens when I give you too much time to prepare.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
right.
We started
Yep.
on time.
we
It's
should
all
play
good.
that tuba, that wah, wah. We should play that tuba after every dad joke.
Yeah.
We'll do that in post-production. We'll add
Yeah,
that.
see if you can find that sort of sound clip and post somewhere. Welcome, everybody, to the Never Going Pro podcast by Dad's Inside Riding Trainers featuring GC Coaching. It's a podcast about riding bikes and parenthood and trying really, really hard at both. I am your host, Ken the Badger Nowell, and with me is Shayne Gaffney, owner of GC Coaching.
Hey, everyone.
And Chris Gorney, fellow dirt teammate, passionate cyclist, and outstanding dad.
How's it going, everybody?
We're doing good, so let's catch up. So the holidays are done. Everybody's back at work. How'd the holidays treat you guys?
Well, we had sickness in our household, so we had kind of 2 weeks of mixture of potty training and illness, mostly to do with our daughter. So, but other than that, it was fun. The holidays were great, and we rested well, and kind of just stayed home and didn't travel. Went to the beach a couple times, but that's what you do when you live in California.
Nice.
We had the same
How about
thing
you,
in my
Shayne?
house. We had the same thing in my house too. Lots of just stomach bugs and just grossness. So it was kind of rough. New Year's Eve, we were all sick, fevers. So, but the holidays, they're good. It's good to have time off. But yeah, we were all sick too. So kind of a hit or miss this year, I guess.
I
Same
did try.
here.
Go ahead.
My daughter and I were sick as well. I'm on my second run of antibiotics to root out a sinus infection, but I am feeling better. It wasn't the end of the world. At least I wasn't at work. So, yeah, that's all good.
You sound better. You sound good.
Yeah, I feel good.
Yeah.
On New Year's Day, I did try. Have you ever seen those? They're like super heavy, almost like beach cruisers with a big electric motor on them. People use them to like ride surfboards down to the ocean. And
Yeah.
I was at a guy's house and he had one of those, and they're so much fun. I mean, it's just like a quiet moped, but it's like strapping a motor to a really crappy bike frame, and you're going like 25 miles an hour, and things are like rattling, and you're not sure if it'll like fall apart. But I get the appeal, man. They were fun. It was an adventure.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I got to ride e-bike, like a fat bike in the parking lot once, and it blew my mind how much power this thing had. I mean, it was basically an electric motorcycle. And you pedaled for the
love
throttle.
it. I love that it's like, well, if you ride a moped, you need to be careful because this thing's dangerous. But then you call it a bike and make the motor quieter, and everyone feels safer, but they're going faster.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is good. There's going to be some sort of documentary coming out in the next few years about how many people have been hurt with all these new little contraptions that we just put motors on.
Yeah, like a one wheel. Those look fun, though. All those things, I think there's some great applications. I'm definitely in favor of it. Anything that gets people out there enjoying bikes and in nature and, maybe like a little bit lighter footprint on our planet. It's all good stuff to me.
What about stealing your Strava KOMs, though?
Those guys.
Yeah, I've had a flag a guy around here, man, who's going and taking all the KOMs on his e-bike. And, so here's the thing. If you're a Strava user and riding an e-bike, by all means, keep going for the KOMs, but go for an e-bike KOM there is a menu inside of Strava where you can toggle between like regular bike and e-bike, and it won't jack up those people that take Strava seriously. It won't screw up their records.
And if you are one of those people who probably wouldn't be listening to this podcast, but if you are one of those people who are doing it on purpose, stop it. We all hate you.
That is true. We do hate you.
Who doesn't take Strava seriously?
I know. Why
Seriously.
would you even be on there?
Come on.
You know? Yeah, right? Doesn't make no damn sense. So anyway, some of my goals are I just started one of Shayne Gaffney's training programs, and I'm also trying to, lose some of the winter weight. I was telling these guys how much I love like eggnog and all the snacks and the drinks that I have. And so we have
is that a segue into Badger Eats?
That's the segue into Badger Eats. I was trying to make it a little.
We need another sound effect. Maybe the same one.
Yeah. Just some guy chewing.
Well,
or a badger. Maybe the sound. Can we get a sound of like a raccoon going through a trash can or something?
Man, there is the most bizarre YouTube song. It's called like Badger Mushroom. It's freaking weird, man. Anyway, that could be our segue song.
What a good story.
Yeah. So here's the meal of the week. It is Pillsbury Grand Biscuits with link sausages on it, sharp cheddar cheese, and strawberry preserves. And you may think that sounds nasty, but it's not, man. I remember I grew up and my dad would eat this shit. And I was like, Dad, that looks nasty. How can you mix up sausage and cheese and strawberry? And he's like, let me make you one. And ever since then, I'm hooked, man. You've got to check it out. If you don't believe me, check out the Badger Eats meal of the week. Grand's biscuits, sausage links, sharp cheddar cheese, and strawberry preserves.
I do want you to do the rest of the podcast in your dad's voice, though. That was great.
It's the same voice, the exact same voice.
Is it cold?
Do you eat it cold?
Yeah.
Nah. Eat it hot.
I'm reading this on our notes. So people, you have to understand, this is not joking. Like, we planned this out, and Badger Eats is written out here, and I'm reading it. Grand's biscuits with link sausages, sharp cheddar, and strawberry preserves.
So
what's the ratio? Do you like dump? Yeah, do you dump the whole thing?
As many sausages as you can fit.
Ooh.
Enough cheese to cover it from edge to edge, and then in the Grand's biscuit.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
What did you think we were talking about it fitting in?
Was it a bowl or?
So it's like a sandwich.
Something normal.
Yeah, it's a breakfast. It's a breakfast sandwich.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's a key piece of information.
Yeah. I'm thinking like a biscuit with a cheese on top with strawberries on top of that.
Now, I don't want to give you too much credit here, Badger, but this is actually like maybe an archaic version of a hipster sandwich that I've started seeing everywhere. Yeah. Where you'll see these like homemade, like everything's organic, handmade biscuits and, handmade sausage. And then they'll have jam on it. That's the thing. But typically they're doing like Gruyere cheese instead of sharp cheddar. But whatever.
Yeah. Well, so that's what happens is there's a lot of like redneck stuff that ends up getting elevated by the hipsters and it becomes really popular. And so, we've been talking about some of this stuff. And, one thing that I was telling Shayne about the other day is I was getting all this meat from this guy at work. He's like, where the hell is that coming from? And I was like, he gets it at the turkey shoot. And he's like, what the hell's a turkey shoot? You go out and shoot turkeys? I'm like, no, man, it's a competition. It's usually held at like churches and country civic centers.
Places where you want more guns.
Yeah, the country. And so you shoot at a target with a shotgun and you win meat.
Yep.
Which is a little backwards. You could also shoot at meat and win meat.
That's to say, just go hunting.
You could. Yeah, you could.
So it's like for lazy hunters.
Pretty much for lazy hunters.
So it's for old hunters, people who were good shots but now don't want to put in the effort.
Yeah. I mean, why do that when you can get in your truck with the heater on? You show up at the shoot, you shoot the bull with your friends, and then you win some meat, take it home. Anyway,
this is all funny because we're talking about this on a cycling podcast with like the constant comparison of people wearing spandex on like really expensive bikes with like advanced technology, and we're talking about like good old boys in flannel shooting stuff.
You would
for like
not
a home bake, like a home bake ham or something.
Hey, these guys, they're men just like us. They take their hobby way too seriously, just
Fair
like we
point.
do. You can go to turkeyshoot.net and learn more about it. You can get custom milled barrels for your shotgun
Ooh.
and,
I'm
different
hoping
chokes,
that
laser
people
sights.
I'm hoping that people can hear me typing right now because I'm going to turkeyshoot.net. This is like the sports equivalent of farmersonly.com, right? Like the dating website.
I did not know there was one of those.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, too bad.
Farmersonly.com.
Yeah, man. Well,
City folk just don't get it.
yeah. Too bad I'm not single anymore. I'd be all over that.
We should move on to cycling.
We should move on to cycling before we lose too much of our core audience. So this week we have a focus question that came up. And so this is how do you make the impossible possible, racing every week on Zwift year round and continually building fitness over time? Because you're going to do it. You're going to race on Zwift every week, no matter what training program you're on. Don't pretend like you're not. We want to pander to these people in our audience and help them get better over time, assuming most of them are not already at their genetic potential. And I think Shayne's about to drop
potential.
some. Yes, Shayne's got the knowledge.
I think so. I mean, I think we can start this conversation in terms of talking about C and D riders more specifically, because I think we came to the conclusion that that's probably going to be the core of Team Dirt, B, C, and D riders. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I'd say definitely so. Definitely B and C for sure. And, D is sort of a mix of people that don't ride as much, or maybe they're just getting back into fitness. But, we want to speak to them as well.
Okay.
A quality people, B quality riders.
Yeah. A plus quality people, I would say.
Yeah.
But because it's interesting, like a really strong A or a really strong B or even a really strong C, their race is going to be a lot different from somebody that's in like a bottom of the category or mid category, where they may have to work over the climbs and things, but then they're really going to be just recovering or even just passively pedaling the other times, as opposed to somebody that's on the bottom of the category where they have to not only work really hard over the climbs, but they also have to work really hard during the actual, non-hard times of the race too, I guess. So racing when it's hard and then moderate is a lot different versus racing hard and then pedaling easy in between that, if that makes sense.
It does kind of, but why
Say
is
that better
that
than
like?
I did, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, those words I understood.
That was kind of a bad explanation.
We should do it again.
But what I'm trying to
So in other words, what you're saying is like in a race, they're making it hard 100% of the time. Like there's no point, there's nowhere to hide. You're just drilling it from the time you start until the time the thing ends. Whereas in a Cat B or a C race, some of the people at the upper ends of those categories have some room to rest during certain periods of the event.
I would say that even during an A Cat 2, I think all categories are like that. It just depends on where you're fitting into the category. So if you're like the bottom of the category or a middle category, your race is going to be a lot different from somebody that's at the very top of the category.
Well, and this is why people don't want to go from, because there's,
sandbagging,
secret, right? Sandbagging it. Those guys, they're like, hey, we'll say if you're at the top of B and you're sandbagging it so you don't get pushed into A and go to the bottom of the pool, hey, you're like not much better than the guy who's going for KOMs on an e-bike outside.
Yeah.
Like you're not much better. We get it. Pain sucks. Okay, fine. We get that. But like don't get into a B. Okay, enough said. I'm gonna start saying stuff that pisses people off. But like that's the thing is you get guys at the top of B category who are just putting out, it's like they're miraculously right below the watts per kilo, like every time. And you're like wondering, you're looking at their weight and you're going, man, he's pretty heavy to be, and you're, so you can start to spot some of these guys who are kind of reverse weight doping
for sure
in Zwift. And I mean, I've been, in times where I've been less fit, you get into a race and you just hammer and you're just like, man, that was awful. And you place like 40th and you're like, man, I gutted myself. Versus sometimes you're in a race where you're like, oh man, that was pretty easy. And you saved your sprint and you were ready to go and you had fresh legs. And honestly, a lot of that has to do with knowledge of the course. Because if you just jump into a race and you don't really know the right places to go, which, that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, sure.
But
well, the conversation being about like actually getting better throughout the year, because I did notice that I was able to, not do a whole lot of structured stuff, and I kept getting better for an entire year with doing multiple Zwift races a week. So let's just back that out a little bit and say every Wednesday morning is a really, really popular race, and you don't want to miss it for the world. All your friends are there. Like, how am I going to structure a training program around that's, say, centered around like about 7 hours a week of ride time?
Right.
And making sure that I'm rested enough.
Towards the upper end, which is towards the upper end of what a lot of people got.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 1 hour a day is all you got.
Right. I think that was a good segue by Chris, and kind of a better explanation, because that was a really bad explanation originally by me. But if you're already training as much as you can, you really can't increase volume anymore to add any more training density. So you really have to increase intensity to increase training density. And really that's going to get the physiological and fitness response that you're after. So my point there is, if you're racing at a very high percentage of your category, you're probably not going to get a great workout as opposed to racing at the bottom of a category. So if you're trying to increase intensity, racing once a week at a very high level of your cat may not be as good as racing up a category, hanging on as long as you possibly can, expecting to get dropped. But you're also going to be stimulating your body a lot more because you're going to be working at a much higher intensity.
Which makes it difficult, because where does that fit into a training plan? Because, if it's I had a friend who used to, he was a professional marathon runner, and he always, when people asked him how he trained, he always used to make jokes and say, well, just when he was 10, he'd get up, walk outside and sprint as hard and as fast as he could. And he did that every day. And now he was 25 and he just, turned that sprint into a marathon. He just, so he just told everyone he sprinted every marathon. His sprints got slower, but he got longer. It's not a very funny joke, but he told it a lot better.
I like it.
Yeah, sure. We can edit it, make it funnier. We can add a laugh track. But the thing is, if you're just burning it for an hour or 45 minutes in a race, like that's kind of a weird, like there's not a lot of times you do that within a training plan. If you're doing like a general build plan or something, there's not a day they just say, ride as hard as you can for 45 minutes. So I've found that it's kind of sometimes hard to work in the workouts, or work in races rather, if you're amidst like a 8 to 10 week training plan, because sometimes it fits differently. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. You also have to consider the fatigue factor after a really hard race, where if you do a really hard race on a Wednesday, Thursday, you're probably going to be trashed. And that could be a potential training day that you could use. So it may be better to do structured work maybe on Wednesday and Thursday, and then maybe race after a rest day or when you're already a little bit fatigued, because you're probably going to get a little better stimulus if you're racing on fatigue legs potentially. But then there's an argument too where if you're not racing totally fresh, you may not get as great of a stimulus because you can't dig as deep. So I like to use racing.
Or you might just not win.
Oh, you might not win, yeah. But yeah, I like to use racing as like a VO2 max day or like anaerobic day. And then I'll try to look at like the courses, and then I'll try to have the athletes select a course that I'm going to get the stimulus out of. So like, example is like
climbs.
A volcano climb is like a good VO2 max climb, as opposed to like Watopia wall is like a kind of more anaerobic kind of minute and a half kind of climb. Or like volcano counterclockwise, that's a really nice punchy course. So it kind of depends on what your goals are and what you're after, but you can kind of replace a day of a training plan with a race, as long as you are A, choosing the right course, and then B, choosing the right category.
Well, what I
Well,
found
I
really
don't think.
interesting
Oh, go ahead.
is, yeah. So during the interview with indoor specialist racer Matt Gardiner that you'll hear later, he sort of touched on that. He races year round, and he is as strong as he's ever been. Um, and one thing that he was pointing out is that you have to fit in. You have to have an adaptable plan. And he was saying the same thing, that he's like, on a specific day where we're doing, I guess, the original KOM, that's a 2-minute VO2 max effort with a rest afterwards where you coast down the backside. Whereas if he's doing something like Box Hill, that is going to be, that 6-7 minute harder effort, or doing something like the climb in Innsbruck, which is going to be more like very close to threshold or near his FTP for, an extended period, 15 minutes. So he said he looks at each different race that they're going to be doing, and he fits that into his plan based on what the stimulus is going to be from that course.
Yep. That's a good point too, though, because like if I'm racing, because I'm a low A, so if I'm racing in an A cat and I do Watopia wall, or that original K1, what do you want to call it, I'm not going to be coasting down the backside. I'm going to be chasing back onto the group. So in his case, it's a VO2 max. It's a VO2 max workout in my case too, but in my case, it's probably going to be a 5-minute effort, not a 2-minute effort.
Well, that's because you weigh 106 pounds.
So that's what I mean too. It's tough to give advice because everybody's going to be a little bit different based on where they are in that category, and that was kind of my main point with that.
So what you're really saying is, if you take races and reverse engineer them by doing a little bit of extra prep work rather than just getting on and picking a race and going, all right, I'm going to burn it today. If you just you take 5 minutes longer and you compare your workout calendar, your training plan, and your kind of quarterly goals, and then you put a little care into which races you pick, you can then shift those races to more of a workout mentality and just enjoy the camaraderie and the social aspect, and maybe win a race, rather than having these weird stops in your training plan where you hit a race and then you're burned for a day or two, and then you have to shift your training plan, which I think is really what a lot of people do. Is they, races end up being kind of a weird pause.
Yep.
In their training plans.
Yep. I would agree with that.
Yeah. And you may also want to structure your rest day to be before the race, and then maybe just a endurance day after a race. Because if you're a little bit cooked, that way you come into the race with fresh legs after a rest day, and then you're getting in some basic endurance work the day after.
Yep. Yeah, usually that's how it will go.
I mean, what do you guys think about throwing a race in during a rest week? So, and to define rest week, we're not saying you're not riding. A rest week would be zone 2 work with maybe a little bit of form and sprint work in there too. So that would be like a rest week. Do you think it's okay to add like a race effort in the middle of a rest week, or do you think that's counterproductive?
Depends on how tired the athlete is. So I guess if the athlete isn't that fatigued, and it's like a few days, it's almost like a partial rest week where it's a few days easy just to freshen up a little bit, and then they can race maybe the last half of the week. I think that's fine. But if the athlete is very tired and they need a true rest week, then I would say no. You want to try to keep the intensity and the volume relatively low on rest weeks, ideally. But that all depends.
Good.
There's a lot of it depends on this conversation, which is tough. But yeah,
I mean, that's one of the things. That's one of the things we've kind of kept hitting on in this, season 1 of Never Going Pro, which we'll talk about season 2 here at the end. But a lot of this is less about figuring out the magic ingredients as much as it is as much as it is working to figure out what success looks like for you, what goals look like for you, what kind of rider you are, and then applying those subjective criteria to what makes things fun, and what is success and what is growing. And so it's really a thoughtful approach with long-term goals with appropriate scientific knowledge that'll help you get stronger. because there is no one fit. There's no one way to do any of this. And I think that's kind of the overarching goal, the overarching kind of theme of this first season is like, it's okay. You are special. You are different. You got to figure out what works for you. And there are resources out there.
Yep. Yeah.
I think that's a great takeaway from it. And I think that's a great takeaway of, all these things where I think we're all looking for simple, like just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And the answer to the question is always like, it depends. So you just need to keep gathering knowledge and keep experimenting. You are your own experiment, and you need to figure out you and what's going to work for you. Like the worst thing you can do for your cycling training is not ride a bike. So whatever keeps you on the bike riding is going to be what is going to make you most successful. And if that means like blowing it up on Zwift once or twice a week, then there you go. That's your jam.
Yep.
And we all know that jam goes well with Grand biscuits, burnt sausages, and cheddar cheese.
Well, you know what? And I think that was a great way to segue into wrapping up season 1, episode 10, and introducing the interview, but also taking a quick moment to talk about what we're going to be doing for season 2 going into 2020.
We're all going to shift to those outdoor elliptical things. What are those even called? We're all going to start doing that.
Elliptical bikes?
Yeah, no, the ones outside, though, you see, and you're always afraid they're going to crash.
Elliptical.
I don't know. No, not in North Carolina. We don't have those here. That's okay, a California thing.
All right. Well, that's a point for North Carolina.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, they're ridiculous. It's like an elliptical with wheels, and they're outside, and they're huge. And anyway.
I have seen them on TV. I saw some dude riding across the country on one. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's the big new thing. Season 2, what we've decided to do is roughly follow through a normal cyclist annual cycle, which is going to be building some base in January and then going into a build and then specializing for the events on your calendar. And taking a mid-season break. That is sort of what our plan is for season 2. Season 1 was us just getting grounded and figuring this whole thing out. And so far it's gone really well. So far we've had about 14,000 downloads and listens to our podcast. So thank all of you out there for wasting your time listening to us.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And keep listening and keep downloading. And even more important than that is, we like to joke about how informal all of this is, but we actually all really care quite a bit because cycling is more than just fitness to us. It's health and it's socialization and it's friends and it has to do with our families. And in light of that, we want you all to be involved, and we're not going to ever take ourselves too seriously, but we want you to give us feedback. And these questions actually do come from people out there. So get online, answer Facebook questions, give us things to talk about. Shayne is for sure the smartest of all of us. And every question that gets submitted, he actually puts together quite a bit of research and actually gets answers. So we're not just out here giving you our opinions. I mean, that's what Ken and I do, but Shayne actually gives you real information. And so, yeah, tell us what you want us to kind of talk about. And I think there's a huge power in just hearing 3 people who have something in common with you, the listener, and just you feel a little less alone. You feel a little more known. And when you're on your bike and you're spinning, that can get you through that next interval. And that's why I listen to the podcast while I ride and comment and take notes on pretty much everything we need to do better, which is pretty much everything.
Cool. Well, yeah, I think that's, I definitely agree with you there. And this week I wanted to go ahead and transition over to the interview. Matt Gardiner, again, he's the fastest accountant on Zwift. He is on Indoor Specialist Race Team, one of the most dominant teams on Zwift. And so he gets to talk a little bit about today's topic, which is, racing year round and continuing to improve. So with that, enjoy the interview. Matt Gardiner, thanks for joining us for the Never Going Pro podcast. How are you today?
Hey man, I'm pretty good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, how the holidays going so far?
They haven't really started yet, but it's going to start going full gas here pretty soon.
Gotcha. So,
Actually, I take that back. Last night we had big family barbecue dinner, so um, we've got the big one out of the way.
nice,
Yeah,
nice. Well, to tell the audience a little bit about Matt, I met Matt on through the Zwift platform. He is one of the co-founders of the Indoor Specialist Race Team, which is one of the most dominant race teams on Zwift. And he is very active with helping organize everything, get it together, does a lot of social media. You can find some of his live streams and clips on the Indoor Specialist Facebook page. And also there's an Indoor Specialist website. And so Matt in real life is a CPA, but he's has a background both racing bikes and triathlons. Is that also
yeah,
correct? Okay.
yep.
Racing bikes, triathlons, and most recently, he's been hooked on Zwift for a while. So we wanted to hear, and I wanted to tell you about our focus question for the week, which is how can you train? How can you do one Zwift race year round and train to continuously get better? So this is like the secret formula because cycling training to this up to date has always been uh, a base block, a build block, a specialty block, and then an off season. But Zwift, there is no off season, so we're trying to find out if we can uh, hack the system. And you race year round.
I'm year round. Yeah, I'm
Yep.
pretty much always on.
Okay. Cool. So tell me, how do you? Well, first of all, when did you first do a Zwift race? How long have you been on the platform?
I did one of my first races in like winter of 2016. I broke my collarbone when I was training for I was training for a marathon. I broke my collarbone just on a recovery ride outside and was forced inside. So I had a friend that one morning was like, "Hey, you should join the Kiss America's AM race with me." And at the time, I didn't know my power numbers or anything. I had just bought a Tax Neo. Um, but it went up the Epic KOM that first race.
Oh wow.
I think I was in C pen, and I remember my friend just dropping me so hard on that bridge that goes up to the castle right
Yeah.
before the castle, and it scared the crap out of me. I didn't do another race for like I don't know 3 or 4 months just because the effort was so hard.
Okay. So it's funny because we see a lot of guys shy away from racing because they have a very similar experience. They may be pretty good in real life, and then they get on Zwift and they get hammered. And a lot of it is like intimidation. But then you kind of get to the point where you realize that you can do this any day you want. There's no race fees. You didn't travel to get anywhere, and it's kind of in your head. If you don't do well, you can just try again.
Yeah, I think that's a barrier for a lot of people is that they get caught up in the results, and it's fun just to just get in there and mix it up and look at it as a workout some days and just have fun.
Sure. So when did you start to make the transition from, just doing a couple rides here or a couple races here and there to actually getting onto Zwift into the Zwift race scene?
So after I said like it took a couple months before I tried to do another race. Like I just when I was rehabbing my collarbone, I basically just did endurance rides, and then I did like the ODZ espresso on a Wednesday morning once as an FTP test, and I just kind of made that like my weekly race in 2017, and because I was training for triathlon and time trials full time, and I just kind of worked that into my weekly rotation of workouts and kind of just got hooked on it. Mitch Dandremond is one of the guys who leads that ride, and
Okay.
he had it on he did a YouTube stream of one of the races once and said my name, and I was just it blew me away, and that's where I kind of really got the bug.
Gotcha. That's awesome. That's really cool. So,
Yeah.
um, when you train, so how do you approach it? Are you pretty structured, or you just sort of wing it, or
Um,
a little both?
Currently, I'm more so winging it just because I've got this kind of flow state of my training. I know day to day what I'm going to do and how it's going to affect me. But I did 70.3 World Championships this year and was a little bit more focused just because it's just kind of a bigger race. I wanted to target specific watts and durations. So it just depends on what race is on the horizon. Like this summer for the Zwift Classics races we did, Matt Brandt and I did some very targeted intervals, just for the races that we knew we were going to have, the type of climb we were going to have in the race, and so forth.
Gotcha. So how much does the squad train together, or practice together, I should say, and then how often do you race together?
I would say we race together 4 or 5 days a week,
Oh my
for
gosh.
sure on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and we do Saturday races and Sunday races. So I'll usually do 3 or 4 of those. It's hard to do all 5 without just completely wrecking yourself.
Do you have guys that you rotate in and out?
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of up to the guys what they want to do. Holden will sometimes do a Friday morning race just to go rip the cranks off. He'll do a short race just because he can. Um, Matt Brandt doesn't race Thursdays. That's one of his rest days. And like today, I just did a zone 2 ride this morning instead of doing the races that they did.
Gotcha. So
Just kind of what the
overall,
guys want to do.
gotcha. So so how much training volume does that end up being per week?
For me, I'm like anywhere from 12 to, I think I did 16 hours this week.
Okay.
Super heavy weeks. I don't, that's not my year round thing. I would say year round, I'm more like 10 to 12, but
Mhm.
holidays, I've got extra time right now. So might as well. I really enjoy riding the bike. So it's nice to be able to do it.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we keep finding over and over is that it's actually the discipline is not getting on the bike and riding it. The discipline for people that love bikes is staying off of it.
Yeah, it's really difficult, especially because I lead with Russ Crowder of KRT. We lead and sweep KISS base on Mondays and Fridays, and then we host a race on Tuesdays. We host a race on Wednesdays, and we have a Sunday race. So almost every day of the week, there's something I could do something that our team is directly involved in. So it's hard to back off.
No, I definitely can see that. So, how did you get bitten by the bike bug? I mean, was this a childhood thing, or and also, how did you get into road cycling?
Um, well, after college, I did. I thought I was kind of, or in college, I thought I was kind of fit. I did P90X for
Okay,
like, I don't know,
nice.
whatever, 90 days, and thought,
Right,
man, I'm
right,
really
right.
fit. And my friend and I, my roommate and I, went to the college gym, and we were gonna run like a couple miles, and I could only run like a half mile, and it just demoralized me. I was like, damn, I'm really fit. Why can't I run?
Yeah.
And I started running. After that, I was like, well, I need to be able to run. And then for some reason, I signed up for a triathlon. I'd never even heard of one, and somehow found it on the internet or through the college or something, and I did that sprint try, and it really took to me. It's super motivating. And then I just did triathlon really up until like 2015, and I didn't really get strong on the bike until I got a power meter and got on Zwift.
Hmm.
And in so I said in 2016 was when I started Zwift. In 2017, I started doing time trials, and just the nature of riding on Zwift, how it's constant pressure on the pedals. There's no coasting. It really is just a time trial effort almost every race. Like if you do the KISS 100, it's a 2 hour, 20-minute time trial
Hmm.
with surges. And I found I was pretty good at time trials. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. I can.
Okay. I found I was pretty good at time trials, and placed like top 3 at this local time trial called the Elkhart time trial, and realized like I should focus on biking. And that summer, 2017, I just really that's when it clicked. Like I am good at cycling, and that's what I want to do. I kept with triathlon, but I always just focused on the bike mostly. I'm not a very good runner or swimmer, so that was a pretty easy choice for me.
It's hard. I've tried to get into running and swimming. So like as a kid, I lived at a marina and we swam every single day. And all summer long, which the summers are pretty long in Virginia. And I loved it. And I was on swim team for a little while, but it's something I just couldn't get passionate about looking at a black line at the bottom of the pool. And then running it's always just kind of painful. I would get calf injuries, but on a bike, it's just the feeling of balance, the sensation of speed. I just found it so much more thrilling than any other endurance sport. And it was just so much easier to stick with it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like you said, you lived in a marina, like the accessibility of that. If I lived very close to a pool or a place I could open water swim, I would totally do that all the time. And that's really the draw for Zwift for me. Like to be able to wake up, like my job, my hours are pretty variable, and I travel quite a bit. So to be able to wake up and hop on the bike at 3:30 in the morning when it's pitch black, like I could never just go outside and roll at 3:30. I could with lights and bundle up, but just I don't have the motivation to do so. And like for triathlon, the pool for me is a 15-minute drive, and then I got to change, and then I got to sit on the side of the pool, not wanting to get in for like 20 minutes because it's cold.
Yeah.
There's a lot of wasted time there. And,
Yeah.
That's what makes Zwift for me just such a game changer. It's instant. Like I can just go hop on the bike, do my 2 hours, get off, shower, eat food. My wife can come down, chat with me. Like it's perfect.
And I think a lot of us have run into that. And so you mentioned you travel a lot, but you have a training station that you take with you.
Yeah, I just pack up my whole Zwift setup. So laptop, fan, trainer, bike, all the cables and stuff necessary. Most of my travel for work is by car, so
Okay.
I can throw it all in my car pretty easily and put it in a hotel.
Very cool.
Request a first floor room so I don't I'm not sprinting on top of someone who's trying to sleep.
No, that's really cool that you can do that. And one question I have for you is, so everybody has their sort of different talent, and you said time trialing was kind of your jam. And how does that fit in with the squad? So I've seen some of your social media and your videos, and it looks like you sort of fill an attacking role or a lead out role.
I would say, yeah, me and Matt Brandt and Ryan Larson, for a large part, will attack in races and try to get into a breakaway. It's just fun to try, and it doesn't often work. Zwift is very difficult to try and get away, but it's really gratifying if it does, and just trying to, it's a really good workout. And the whole time that we're trying to do that, get off the front, it lets Holden or like if Ryan's sitting in, it lets them sit and just relax because other guys are gonna have to chase us. But
Gotcha.
yeah, based on my power profile, I'm a pretty decent short climber. Like Watopia Hilly, I'm really good at that at the KOM or Box Hill. I can hang with most of the guys in the A plus category, but the second the climb gets longer, my time trialing ability isn't as great.
Right, because from the years of triathlon, you're carrying some upper body mass, like some muscle.
Yeah. I didn't swim as much this year just because I was lifting so much more. But in past years, yeah, my upper body has been a lot bigger.
Yeah, gotcha.
As I trained, I actually, after half Ironman World Championships, I kind of backed away from triathlon. So slowly my muscle will shift from my upper body, hopefully just to my quads and calves. It'll be great.
Sweet. What's your balance between riding inside and outside now? I mean, are you mostly inside, or what's the weather like where you are?
Well, I'm gonna ride outside in like an hour and a half. But honestly, I don't ride outside very often. This year, I probably rode outside less than 20 times.
Okay.
Well, between 20 and 30. The first ride I did outside was in May, a local time trial. I set the course record on the time trial course. It was like,
Nice.
I'm going to go outside. I'm going to make it count. But yeah, it's really hard for me to get a ride in after work, just because I travel a lot during the summer based on our clients. So to come home at 6 and then go roll out and try to do a ride before the sun sets is just hard. I'd rather just come home and sit on the couch.
No, I understand that, and this is a interesting photo I saw of you one day. I always think of as a CPA, as a number cruncher sitting at a desk, and there's a picture of you in plain clothes in a corn silo, counting
Yep.
like corn tonnage or something like that.
Yeah.
So, so you're actually out in the field doing inventory and checking operations.
Yeah, at least a couple times a month we're going out. We audit agricultural co-ops, grain co-ops, and so we'll measure uh, corn, beans, oats, wheat, measure dry fertilizer. So yeah, I'm a literal bean counter for an
Okay,
accountant.
very cool.
Yeah.
Well, so this has all been really good to hear how you train. And so, do you believe that it is possible to keep building your fitness year round while doing a Zwift race each week? Like, if you were to give advice to the audience, what would you pass along?
Yeah, I would say it'd be pretty hard to do a full 12-month calendar and see consistent gains. I think there needs to be some rest periods, times when you back off. But I said that I did that ODZ espresso race. And so in 2017, like that was pretty much the only race that I ever did that year. And I focused on it every week. It was not really an FTP test, but just something like a very high intensity workout for me. Um, and I saw gains just doing that once a week, one race a week, and then structure the rest or recovery rides, and it worked out pretty well. So I absolutely think that Zwift racing can play into a structured uh, workout, or a structured training plan.
Just put it in there as your weekly intensity.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
maybe it's like
absolutely.
a over under workout or
And
something
what
along.
makes it kind of complicated is, your workout is totally dependent on the course you're racing. Like, if you need a 2x20 workout simulated in a race, you can't go race Watopia Hilly, which has a 2-minute VO2 max interval every lap.
Right.
Um, so, and because I've given advice to triathletes or cyclists on how to work Swift racing into their training plans, and it really there's just a learning curve of knowing the course schedule and navigating Zwift companion app to figure out which races you should do, um, based on your goals, because you can look at all those climbs in the game as specific intervals. Like, if you want
Right.
to work on your 5-minute power, you can go race London Loop, which is Box Hill, has a 5 to 6 minute climb, and you could build it that way if you wanted to.
That's actually really good advice, and it's something I haven't heard. And that, like, looking at your profile, and these races usually rotate course to course, so you can't say every week I'm going to do this, because that's the stimulus that it's
Right.
gonna give. So yeah, I think that's great advice. So before we move on and wrap up the interview, there seems to be some really exciting things happening in Zwift racing and with indoor specialists, and you've recently gotten some sponsorship. So want to hear a little bit about the future. So you've kind of talked about where things have been in the past up to here, but where are they going from here forward?
Yeah, honestly, we just got partnered up with Ceres Cycling. We've been testing and riding on the Ceres H3 smart trainer for the last couple months, and been pretty impressed with the product. It's been really quite good, and we've helped them make some firmware changes based on some power analysis that we've done. So our team's running every kind of power meter pretty much,
Okay.
SRM, Quark, Power Tap, pedals, etc. So we're all comparing to the trainer and giving our feedback so we can help them, just kind of make that trainer as accurate as it possibly can be. As for the future of Zwift, we're kind of waiting on Zwift to announce what their plans are. We take part in the community and race all the time, but we're just kind of waiting on Zwift to announce what their plans are going to be for 2020, and as far as nationals and if there's going to be other invite-only race series like we had this summer in the Zwift Classics. But yeah, we're ready for pretty much anything they can throw at us.
That sounds great. So also I've seen some Eat the Pain stuff going on. Tell us a little bit about them.
Yeah, so Coda Nutrition out of Australia has been great. We set up their slogan is "Eat the Pain," which just kind of fits our mentality perfectly. And we set up this weekly throwdown race that is we focus on them as our sponsor, and they have some of the best electrolyte drink mix on the market. It is so good. And their energy gels and bars are incredible as well. And we're using those every week. It's great.
Fantastic. So, Matt, thanks. Exciting stuff with Saris and Coda Nutrition, and best of luck with you and Indoor Specialist. Thanks for taking the time to be with us today.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. Appreciate it.
I hope you enjoyed the interview, and thanks again to Matt Gardiner for taking the time to be on Never Going Pro. Chris and Shayne, great catching up with you, and Happy New Year.
Can I say one thing as we finish?
Yes.
So I want to know which turkey shoot you go to, because I'm here looking at this website, and North Carolina's got Hurley Landing, the Catfish Gun Club, Gorman Ruritan turkey shoot, and Lakeview.
Ruritan.
So that's yours, Ruritan.
I don't go to turkey shoots. I just got a friend that goes, and he brings me meat. It's cool.
Well, and here's the best thing. They've got all these qualifications. Indoor shooting? No. Indoor seating? No. Family friendly? Yes. Indoor restroom? Yes. So that's something you have to know in North Carolina, I guess, if there's a restroom inside or not. No alcohol allowed. That's probably good. And then they tell you a motel distance. Not a hotel distance, mind you.
Motel.
A motel.
A motel.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm done now.
All right. Well, yeah, thanks for looking into that. Well, thanks again, guys. Great to catch up with you, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And thanks for everybody listening to Never Going Pro. Ride on, and I will see you in Watopia.